This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Yeah, baby. Welcome to another episode of the DocNJock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. He's ready to pick me up today. Obviously, like you heard earlier this week, still dealing with the ramifications of a cold. I feel great. I'm ready to record this podcast. Like Adam said, and like I said earlier this week, I feel like I'm sounding better with a cold. And that's what you said, too. You validated it.
Yeah, dude. Am I here with Barry White or am I here with John Macaroon? Who am I here with?
Baby.
Right. I love that, dude. That needs to be a drop from now on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's good with you, sir? Baby.
So a couple good things, man. I was able to go check out LCA, and on Twitter, I gave my review. I thought it was a beautiful arena. I thought it was very sleek.
Okay, rewind. Set the scene. When you first walk in, what entrance did you go through to get into the building?
I came in the one right off of Woodward, the one that faces Hockeytown.
Okay, yep.
So I walked in. Was it the Meyer entrance or whatever it is? I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I walked in and I was just blown away. Like, my jaw hit the ground. I was like, wow, this place is incredible. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful, sleek. I described it as handsome. If that makes any sense to anybody, like, it's a very handsome arena. It's a guy's domain. So I think beautiful should be used more for describing a woman or a feminine product. This is handsome, man. It's rugged. It's nice, but it feels very sterile. It feels like it's very cookie cutter. There's no character to it. It's got Red Wing and Piston ornaments in certain places, but there's no character to it. Like, the Joe had character. And I don't know if the character was that the floors were always sticky from pee, or if the concourse smelt like urine, or the fact that us as guys had to go and basically pull our wieners out next to each other and pee in a tub, basically. I'm not sure what it was about Joe Louis Arena, but Joe Louis Arena had character. This place doesn't have character, at least not yet. And maybe that comes along with winning. I was trying to figure it out when I was talking to my mom and describing it to my mom. And I was like, maybe it comes with winning. Maybe they win a little bit there. There's a couple good seasons. You know, maybe there's some more blood that's spilled on the ice. You know, maybe the Pistons raise a banner there. Maybe the character comes the longer they play in that place, and you have some history there. But right now, it's a blank slate. And that's kind of the feeling I have with it. It's just, it's there.
That's what a couple of our supporters tweeted back at you when you kind of gave your review, was kind of give it some time. The pot smell will kind of, reverberate through the arena. And once the piss smell from the fans kind of, gets through, it'll start to develop that character. It was kind of funny, but that's kind of the thing I was saying to you, in that it's nice. It's an architectural beauty. But outside of the restaurants, was my review to you correct? Outside of the restaurants and the nice sight lines and the things like that, not much to keep bringing you back other than, wow, it's a nice building. But
right.
Other than that, great. Good job.
I mean, unless you're going to watch a game, what else are you going there for? I mean, this is the one thing I found, too. So me and my cousin stopped in at Kid Rock's restaurant.
Okay.
Right? 'Cause
I had a feeling.
We were hungry. We were looking for something to eat, man. So,
and I nailed it. I said, bro, you dropped $30 on food, didn't you?
Yeah,
you donated to the cause.
I did. You're absolutely right. Well, you called it, man. I had 2 beers, and I bought dinner for myself and for my cousin, and I bought us each 2 beers because he was the one who shelled out the tickets. So right there, $65. You nailed it right on the head, bro. You nailed it right on the head. We were at Kid Rock's restaurant. We were hanging out at the bar. We were drinking a couple beers, eating some burgers, and it was one of those things where we didn't have to leave. Like, we would have been content just sitting there watching the game on the television and eating and drinking. You know, like, I understand why there's empty seats and why you see the mass pools of red in the stands, because there is so much going on, and there's such a comfort zone in everything else that is away from either the ice or the hardwood. You can get lost just sitting there at the restaurant or sitting there at the bar eating and drinking. You don't ever have to even go to the game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
So I totally get why it looks so empty all the time, because we didn't have to go to the game. Like, we wanted to go, and that was the only reason we went. we both looked at each other like, we could sit here for the next 2 hours, get blotto, and,
I haven't
just eat and
spent.
drink.
Obviously, I kept my money in my pocket. I eat at home. What's Kid Rock's restaurant like? Good? You recommend going there?
It was all right. It was a good burger.
Okay.
So they have like a shortened menu. Like before the game, they have a real condensed menu if you eat at the bar. And that's to kind of get you in, get you out. So we ended up getting a burger. It was a good bar burger. And drinks were reasonably priced. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's not bad. I don't know if I would wait 40 minutes because that's what the line was unless you went to the bar. I don't know if I'd wait 40 minutes to go eat, but it wasn't bad. It was all right.
In-game experience, did you enjoy the atmosphere? Obviously, many people will say that when they go to LCA, it's entertaining. They do a good job with, when you sit actually in your seats. Were you comfortable?
Yeah, I was.
Lower bowl was pretty good.
Yeah, that's where we were. We were 2 rows off the glass. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I couldn't complain, man. It was great. The action was right there. You could hear the guys chirping each other.
Good game too. Sal, I think it was
awesome,
2-2 late in the game. Michigan got the go-ahead goal.
Yep. Go blue. Go blue, baby.
They won the Big D trophy.
Oh, yeah. That was just ridiculous.
Did they actually present it to them?
Yes,
they did?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Like, why are they giving a trophy? Duel in the D, right?
It's, I get it, I guess. Like, Boston's got the bean pot, right? So Boston College and Boston University played for that, and that's like a heralded trophy. It's kind of like when it's kind of like the Paul Bunyan trophy, right? Like the Paul Bunyan trophy is a legit trophy, and it has some meaning, just like the little brown jug has some meaning. I don't understand what the meaning of the duel in the D trophy is, but whatever, it's there.
They skate around with it. Were you all happy?
It was so ridiculous.
And you read a tweet like, God, that doc's an idiot.
It was so
Big D trophy resides with the Wolverines. Good for them.
It was so ridiculous. More good news. So we got the computer fixed.
Nice.
So this was the bane of my existence for a couple of days. So the wife, I think, figured out what the problem was. All right, so Windows was doing this massive update, and for some reason, when I updated everything, one of the files didn't update. It corrupted. Because of all that, I had to reinstall Windows. But Windows 10 has a failsafe where it will reinstall Windows, but save all of your programs or all of your files. Won't save all your programs. You have to go back through and reinstall all your apps and whatever you were using. So all of my Adobe programs, thank God I saved all that. I'm a pack rat, and I had the serial numbers, and I have all the passwords for everything, so I was able to re-upload all those onto my computer. But geez Louise, man, thank God Windows has that failsafe. Otherwise, I'd have lost everything. I'd have been ripping hard drives out of computers and having to go buy a brand new computer. But got to save $1,000 and didn't have to put that towards the computer. So we're in business, bro.
Back in business. Episode 236 ready to kick off. You know who's also back in business? Bob Quinn, who in essence, we all sit back and go, why didn't you fire Jim Caldwell? Well, hey, he knows the landscape of the NFL. He knows the owners here in Detroit. Man, if you just kind of maybe have one winning playoff year, I probably could get a lifetime deal. And he recognized, look, in the end, I can just buy 2 years free and keep Jim Caldwell, and I can go along with what the boss wants, and it's all good, baby. Now, you got it. Basically, last Friday, and it's interesting, I'm curious to get a sense from you. Do you think it was a news dump or creatively placed there? But in the end now, Matthew Stafford, Bob Quinn, and new head coach Matt Patricia all have 5-year deals. And so basically everyone's saying it, dude, Bob Quinn earned 2 free years. He got an extension. For what? I don't get it. When I saw it, I'm like, well, okay, I can understand the rationale. But in terms of performance-based, another example of the Lions just handing out free years and free money for no productivity.
Well, he had 2 winning seasons. You can't say no productivity.
Winning involves playoff success. You could go 9-7, 10-6, 11-5, whatever.
That's not how the Lions gauge things. That's how you and I gauge things.
But isn't it awesome?
They're not a real organization.
Bob Quinn's a baller, and he got himself a couple free years by just keeping a guy that nobody believed in. How awesome is that?
Well, I say congratulations to Bob Quinn on basically making something out of nothing there and giving yourself an extension for sure. But this extension is obviously tied to Matt Patricia as the head coach and obviously tied to Matt Stafford as the quarterback. I think what Martha did was she was like, look, you got your coach. You're going to sink or swim with him. You got your quarterback or the guy who you believe is going to be the quarterback of this team. You're going to sink and swim with him. Whether you survive this 5-year extension or not, whether we win a playoff game, these are your pieces. You're going to do what you got to do with them, and we're going to let the chips kind of fall where they may. And that's what it is, man. Bob Quinn has now hitched his wagon to both Matt Stafford and Matt Patricia. It's the 2 Matts and the Bob, and wherever they go, they're going to go together.
It's go time. And have you kind of peeked in a little bit? Obviously, we looked at and we say, how do we improve the Lions team? And we're going to talk about some players that we think they should sign. But earlier on Wednesday, it's kind of being talked about a little bit. Yeah, maybe the Lions will go out and get that running back in the draft, and it's a deep class in terms of running backs. But there's also a couple of free agents that are out there, the likes of a Rex Burkhead, Dion Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, Carlos Hyde. Yeah, there's a lot of running backs out there. Do you think they should go, if they're going to go out there and maybe just do both, get one free agent, let Amir Abdullah go, and you just roll into the season with Theo Riddick, one free agent addition and one draftee? I think that's the best solution.
I think that would be the best solution as well.
Let Dwayne Washington go, cut bait with Amir Abdullah. You keep Theo Riddick.
Zach Zenner's probably gone.
Zach Zenner, let him go off and be a doctor, let him do his thing. But I think the best solution would be, prime A option is keep Theo Riddick, go out there, add one of those pieces who you think is best. Maybe, Bob Quinn goes to the relationship with New England, or he maybe continues to go out there and survey the landscape regarding one of the free agent running backs out there and then pick up one in the draft, right?
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to make this running back depth chart, the way I'm doing it, you got Theo Riddick as basically your third down guy, your pass catching running back. I'm going out there, and if Carlos Hyde's available, and depending on what he's talking about price wise, I'm going and getting Carlos Hyde, and then I'm coming back in the draft and I'm drafting somebody. That's the way I would do it, unless something happens that we'll discuss here in a few moments. If that happens, then you're totally set at running back. You're totally set at running back. But yeah, I think you go out there and you get a free agent running back, you add them to this core that you have here, and by this core, I mean Theo Riddick and pretty much only Theo Riddick. Dwayne Washington, his time's done. Zach Zenner, they don't utilize him. I don't know why they don't utilize him, but they don't utilize him, so let him go. I don't want to see Amir Abdullah anymore. I'm over the Amir Abdullah experiment. Look, he's good in preseason, and that's it. It shows you nothing during game time. So let him go. I'd add somebody from the draft. You need to. This is the thing about running backs. Running backs usually have about a 3 or a 4 year lifespan. That's what happens. They get chewed up, spit out. You add somebody from the free agent class, and then you pair them with a running back. So you've got your running back for now, you've got your running back for the future, and you kind of go with your in-between guy with Theo Riddick. So past, present, and future, you're set. That's kind of how I would do it. What I found interesting was there's this Pro Football Focus article, and basically it claims that you must re-sign Haloti Ngata over the likes of a guy like a Ziggy Ansah or Tahir Whitehead. I want to know how you feel about that. Do you think Haloti Ngata is a mainstay on this defense going forward, or do you think that this defense would be better off with a guy like a Ziggy Ansah or even a Tahir Whitehead?
I understand that when we look at off-season moves, we look at what's got to take place. I think, if my memory serves me correct, you're interested in franchising Ziggy Ansah and bringing him back here to do his thing. For me, I know that you definitely need veteran leadership, you need productivity, but for me, I disagree with the article. I would go younger in the draft. Haloti Ngata is an individual that's obviously been with the team, but he suffered injuries. You can't have a guy like that. In theory, if he's on the field, he's great. But look what happens when he's gone. You basically, in 2017, started the year off great defensively. He goes down. Now you can't stop the run. Ziggy Ansah, his productivity is really kind of, when you evaluate it, it's a big hit or miss. And can you afford to take a big, huge swing at $17 million? So my opinion would be, you know what? If you're an MVP caliber drafter, if you can do the job, I'd let them both go. Go younger, go cheaper.
I gotcha. You're wrong. I don't want to franchise Ziggy Ansah. I don't want to extend him.
Yep,
I want
gone.
Ziggy Ansah gone.
Yep, let him go.
However, I am high on keeping Haloti Ngata.
Okay.
I'm big on bringing him back. I think you can bring him back for a palpable contract somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $6 million. Sign him to a 1-year deal. I think at this point he's even been on record as saying he wants to stay in Detroit and he's willing to do the whole 1-year deal thing. I think Haloti Ngata brings enough to that defensive line that he makes such a huge impact when he's healthy. And that's the problem. When he's healthy, he's not always healthy. So if and when he's on the field, he is a dramatic impact to that defensive front. He makes them so much better. I would go and I would bring him back, and then I would see if Tahir Whitehead wants to come back. And if Tahir Whitehead wants to come back and there's a deal that can be made there, because I don't think he's going to cost you a lot. I don't think he's a top-end free agent, especially at a linebacker position. But I think he's good enough and he gives you enough production on the field where you could bring him back and you can work him into the fold. Now, what Matt Patricia does, especially what Matt Patricia does on the defensive end or the defensive line with big guys up front, he gets his best defense and he gets his best defensive production out of having massive run stoppers. You remember Vince Wilfork with that Patriots D. It was incredible. It was awesome. So you're going to need a guy like a Haloti Ngata up front. So go get Haloti Ngata, go get Tahir Whitehead, and if you can afford to, go get Sheldon Richardson out there as well. I'd bring all those guys in, and then I'd go and I'd grab a guy in the draft, maybe even in the first round. We're going to look at a mock draft later on, and there's a guy that kind of falls to you or in your neighborhood that I think you need to go get if he's there. If he's available.
Now, a lot of people on our Twitter page are really excited too because I know people in Detroit are starved for superstars, a name that you and I have discussed as an outlier chance, but a lot of fans kind of want Le'Veon Bell to come here to Detroit, a Detroit guy, somebody that went to college here in Michigan, and they want to say, hey, look, bring Le'Veon Bell back home and let him do his thing because maybe, just maybe, you have a chance to kind of bridge that gap and say, look to Le'Veon, look, the Steelers haven't treated you right. They want to franchise you. They refuse to give you that massive deal that you deserve. 25, 26 years old, you and I have both said that maybe there's a concern regarding how much tread is left on those tires because of how much he's been used, but what are your thoughts on maybe Le'Veon Bell being kind of recruited by the Detroit Lions? Is that the centerpiece if you want to go out there and get the big splash? If they want to do it, it's probably really difficult with the cap because dude wants max money. He wants to set the standard, and I don't know if he's willing to take a hometown deal to come to Detroit.
Yeah, right now he earned $12.12 million last year. So now a lot of things have to happen for the Lions to be able to pick him up in free agency. So basically, what's going to have to happen is Pittsburgh's going to have to kind of let him go. They're not going to franchise him, essentially, is what I'm saying. So if Pittsburgh doesn't franchise him, he then becomes an unrestricted free agent. At that time, he can go out and he can look to sign with whatever team he wants. If he's available, I think you go out, you grab that guy. I understand that he's been used and abused in Pittsburgh. I still think there's some tread on those tires. I still think he is a big-name guy. He's a splash guy. You go out there, you sign him, you add him to this offense. You still go out, and I think in the second round, you add a running back because it's the same deal. You need a free agent guy. If it's Le'Veon Bell, it's Le'Veon Bell. If it's Carlos Hyde, it's Carlos Hyde. You keep Theo Riddick, and then you go out there and you maybe add a Sony Michel in your second round if you can get him. And I think instantly your running back core looks that much better. I think you look that much better as an offense as well, because now you've got some running backs who can do some things.
It'd be awesome, though. It'd be really cool if they could work it out, because I think that would be a piece that many people would really gravitate toward. It would make news. You'd have Le'Veon Bell with Matthew Stafford and Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. You probably could do some things. You could,
dude, that would be a top five offense.
That'd be
for sure. It would have to be, right?
It would have to be, and then you could take the pressure off of Stafford. It opens up a lot of things, and then you just have to hope that Le'Veon Bell comes here and still remains Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, that's the key. That's the part that most people get worried about.
I think the thing with Le'Veon Bell is if you were to do what we just said, I think it works out perfect for him, because you don't need to use him every single down like he's utilized in Pittsburgh. You can save him a little bit. I mean, this is a guy who gets roughly 30 touches a game. You can cut that down to 20. Save his legs. You can cut it down to 15 if you want. You can have him splitting carries in a backfield that has a Theo Riddick, that has, in this case, a guy who I'm throwing out there, a Sony Michel, and him. He can be your lead feature back, but those other guys are going to spell him. If it's a 2-to-1 carry ratio between him and those other two guys, I think everybody's okay with that. And I think it makes you a much more different offense. I think it makes you much more potent. I think your ability to run the ball and grind out runs and score points when you're in the red zone goes through the roof.
Yes, sir.
And it makes you a lethal offense. And I would do it if it's available. I would do it all day long in a heartbeat.
True, but at the same time, many people, again, timing's not right because of the fact that most people say, look, just forget about the superstar running back, forget about the sexy names, just go out there and fix the offensive line. That way, a guy like an Amir Abdullah can get those yards. Theo Riddick got 700 yards last year or so, and he could probably do some things as well. So more people are like, look, we've tried this before. You can go out there and get running backs and get a myriad of talent, but if you don't have an offensive line, they don't even think Le'Veon Bell could run through it.
And I totally agree with all of that. I do. You got to fix the offensive line.
Yep.
But if I was to pose to you, hey, you can add Amir Abdullah or you can add Le'Veon Bell, you're going to take Le'Veon Bell all day long.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He's a patient runner. He's got vision. The guy's got speed, and he can catch the ball. He can do everything.
Yep.
He's an every down back. He is something that you have longed for since the day of Barry Sanders. And even then, Barry Sanders wasn't your every down back because they would pull him out when it was 3rd and 1 from the goal line. You know what I'm saying?
Now
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is a question for you. If you're able to go out there and you're able to bring Le'Veon Bell in, how does that affect your draft board? And what do you do during free agency?
Oh, that makes it much easier. Then you go offensive line, defensive line, and then you address probably another area of need is probably adding depth to the secondary linebackers. Makes the draft board kind of easy because you got a defensive guy in. You can maybe try and plug in a couple offensive linemen. You probably go with the ratio of like maybe 3 offensive players to 4 on the defense on that front if you bring in a Le'Veon Bell.
If you go out and you sign Le'Veon Bell, I think your running back position doesn't necessarily take care of itself, but I think you're in a much better spot. I think 2nd round, you're still addressing running back there. You're adding somebody else. You're right. You need to address the offensive line still. You need to figure out what you're doing with that guard position because I think Graham Glasgow is going to probably move over and play center. I don't think they're bringing Travis Swanson back. So you're going to have to address your guard position there. But I think 1st round, you go defensive line, and then you're going to kind of have to let the draft board kind of come to you, but you load up on defense, I think, through the draft and in free agency. So that's the way I would address it. It's how I would tackle it.
Can't wait, man. Now we're talking about the draft. It's getting exciting, too.
I know.
Because
I feel bad because I feel like all we do is talk Lions, but it's like it never stops.
It's good.
It never stops.
It's exciting, too, because it's an important draft. This number 3, because most people are saying first 2 years for Quinn. Year 1 was okay. Year 2, could be left a lot of room to be desired, especially with free agency. So year 3, it's going to be exciting to see how this team is going to be turned over because he did say about 30% of the roster every year gets turned over. So I'm excited to see. But this mock draft that you sent me from CBS Sports, kind of in line with a lot of what I've read, a lot of what people are looking at, in that this mock draft has the Detroit Lions with the 20th pick staying there, taking Vita Vea, defensive tackle, Washington, 6'4", 350. People kind of are naturally slotting him to go to the Lions because of the fact now we got a defensive coach. We got a coach now that's going to want to probably really emphasize the defense to try and bring this team over the hump. But for me, I read these drafts and kind of obviously, like we say, defense wins championships, but my mind just kind of wants to go and get that lineman. I want to protect Matthew Stafford. When you look at the numbers, bro, Matthew Stafford, I think, was sacked the 2nd most in the entire NFL, and you don't want your quarterback running for his life because I don't know how he survived. I mean, he got nicked up again towards the end of the year, with a hand and a leg, and he was running around, and every single game he was on his ass. And a name that I've kind of liked and from a program that produces solid linemen is Orlando Brown from Oklahoma. I think that he's projected right now to go 15 to Arizona, and I think that with a lot of people from the secondary and linemen going off the board, I think if you're going to move up, realistically, I know you and I know that they're not going to get Saquon Barkley. They're not going to make that splash move. If you're going to move up, maybe you just move up 3 or 4 spots, and if you go out there and you don't take a defensive lineman, maybe look at Orlando Brown. I think he's been slotted, and when people talk about his strengths, people say he's ready to come in and play immediately.
I'm not opposed to that. My thing is Vita Vea is the guy who I'd love for them to go and get.
You're cool with that?
Yeah, he is. Basically, this is why it's so important to bring Haloti Ngata back, because this is your Haloti Ngata of the future. This is your big run stuffer who's going to be plugged into your middle, who's going to be disruptive. He's going to be a force. So you bring Haloti Ngata back basically to teach him what he's going to do. Show him his job. Show him his work, what's got to get done. And we've already talked about what Bob Quinn likes. His defenses perform much better when he's got a big run stuffer. Now you've got 2 of them, and you mix them in with A'Shawn Robinson. Come on, dude. That front, especially in the middle there, looks so much better instantly. You got 3 guys who are going to start and who are going to disrupt everything and just become mashers up front for you. So I love Vita Vea falling to you at the 20th spot. What I found really interesting with this mock draft is who goes number 1. And that just blows my mind. He's a guy who I really like, but he's got character issues. He's got character flaws. I think he's a leader, but he's got huge character issues, and that's Baker Mayfield. Mayfield goes number 1 to the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
I think that just has disaster written all over it.
Right.
I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be decent. I don't think you go to the Cleveland Browns as the first overall selection, and I don't think you have success if you're Baker Mayfield. I think if you go to the Giants, You can even go to Denver. I think you're going to be okay. Maybe even the Jets, you'll be okay. I don't think you can go to the Browns and be okay if you're Baker Mayfield.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, there's too many things out there that are just ancillary, whether it be the way he deals with on-field issues. He never really has any off-field issues. It's just everything on-field, grabbing his crotch, doing the throat cut gestures. It's just, I love him. I love the energy. I love the swagger, the way he kind of carries himself on the field. I love it personally, just as a spectator. I think it's great. He's a walking story. Him going to Cleveland, I think, just becomes an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, no, I don't see that. For anybody.
I think he needs somebody like a John Elway to kind of help lead him a little bit. So that's why I think if he goes to say Denver, I think it's a much better fit for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But
man.
I found that to be interesting.
Of the quarterbacks, just real quickly, which one do you think has the biggest chance of success the earliest?
I would say probably, if this mock draft holds true, probably Josh Rosen. If he goes to the New York Giants, just because you got a steady hand there with Eli Manning, a guy who can show you how to do it. You can kind of, he's a quiet leader. You don't necessarily need a guy who's super vocal all the time. He's a guy who's basically been there, done that. Name it. Eli's been there, done that. He's been questioned by his defense. He's been questioned by his coaches. And all he's done is gone out there and won you 2 Super Bowls. Do you know what I'm saying? He's a guy who has performed in the brightest light every single time. So I think just overall, with his makeup and the way he plays, I think anywhere Josh Rosen's going to go, he's going to perform. I think the Giants are high on him right now, and I could see him going number 2. That's why I like this mock draft. I think he probably has the best chance to succeed. And especially if they bring OBJ back. I mean, you've got a stud wide receiver. Do you know what I'm saying? And you've got a pretty decent defense. At least historically, you've had a pretty decent defense. The way they like to draft guys over there in New York for the Giants, I mean, they're always plugging in defensive ends, defensive linemen. Their defensive front is usually stacked. So I think the Giants, if they go out and they grab Rosen, I think they'll be ecstatic with that pick.
All right, let's take our first time out. We'll come back. We got to talk about the Pistons making news. I feel like people are really down on a move they made. I'm the total opposite. I'll share with you my thoughts regarding the recent move that's been controversial, and as well, Adam and I will give our thoughts regarding their play of late. Man, again, when you have a roller coaster team, we were all getting excited a little bit with what they could have done, but objectively, now they've come back to earth. We got to talk about it next on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio, and we could not have grown this network without having a great host site. Why do we use Podomatic? Super easy to use. Adam and I will share some laughs. We'll have some strong debates. We'll ease into our conversations regarding Detroit sports, and then we just upload the audio to Podomatic, and then we can generate a great link so that all of our supporters in Florida, across the country, and even overseas, they can listen and find out what we think on the world of Detroit sports. We're so thankful that we found a great host site. It's been super easy, and we've recorded 800 to 900 weekly podcasts, and it's been so easy. I can't stress enough how easy it is to use Podomatic.com. If you're interested in starting a brand new project or a brand new podcast, maybe, Doc and Jock, Vito, Jason, Steve, all the hosts here on the network, we're going to recommend one host site and one host site alone, Podomatic.com.
When this song plays, I feel like we should come out with head wraps on and just oil all over our chest.
Good stuff.
Mimicking a six-pack, because neither one of us got one of those.
Not yet. Working on it. Because people tuned in, Monday after a loss, and they were looking at the Detroit Pistons, and they're saying, okay, what are they going to do? You're playing the Pelicans. How are they going to look after a loss on Sunday? And people were, kind of expecting them to kind of ball out, play a lot better defense than they played over the weekend. But one of the first things they noticed was, wait a minute, where's that bright red eyesore that we're used to seeing each and every game? Where's it at? And all of a sudden, the beat writers started taking pictures and putting it out there. And really weird and eerie timing, too, that we heard the news earlier in the week that Art Van Eschlander passed away, a great pioneer, a great furniture mogul, turning a store on Gratiot into 100 stores and making $1 billion in sales and doing all that stuff. Art Van did a lot of things in the furniture business. They have set up a corporate partnership with the Pistons to put seat covers at Little Caesars Arena. And not only do you do it, you don't fill the entire lower bowl. So when Andre Drummond's shooting free throws, because I watched the game versus the Pelicans, because really I was interested in Anthony Davis. Wow.
Yeah.
I was interested. Yeah. I was interested. Not for Blake Griffin. I was interested in Anthony Davis, a real superstar. But they showed They showed Andre Drummond shooting free throws, and there was still a sea of red over his right shoulder because they, for some reason, continued to use that lower camera angle. But they covered certain sections, sideline to sideline, with covers. And I said to myself, that's so slick. Yeah, of course they addressed the problem. One, they addressed it. It looks a little bit better. And two, they got paid. How can you not like that? How can you call that embarrassing? They obviously know that people are talking about it game in and game out. They know that it's embarrassing. And they said, you know what? We know it's a problem. Let's go out there and make the best of a crappy situation. But I'd say, look, maybe you just give them the same rate for sideline to sideline, but fill the entire stadium. I know it's a lot of work, but fill the entire stadium with the seat cover. I don't care. I think it looks great.
It's Bush League, dude.
That's awesome. No, it's not. It's awesome.
No, it is Bush League. And you're right. Yeah, they got a payday out of it.
Yes.
But they pick and choose which seats they're going to cover with this. Right. No, if you're going to do this, right, do it like a regular organization, like a good organization. An organization that has all of its ducks in a row. Don't be Bush League and run of the mill, and don't take the way you're going to do things from a team like, I don't know, the Lions, who sit there and extend a head coach on a Friday.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Don't do stuff like that. What are you doing? This is Bush League. If you're going to do this, you fill it from the right side to the left side, and you wrap it all the way around so it all meets back in the middle, dude.
But here's the problem.
You don't pick and choose which seats you want to cover.
The problem is, though, you can't. I mean, it probably would take a day to take them off and on because the Red Wings are not doing it. That's the problem.
Whatever. You've got people. You hire people. Apparently, you just signed some type of a corporate sponsorship with Art Van. So you can go hire, I don't know, Timmy $2 and bring him in and have him slap him on and pull him off, bro. Come on, dude.
Listen, so you think they should not have done it at all?
No. Look here. If you're trying to make more revenue, I get it. That's fine. And I'm not going to tell the Pistons how not to make money. If that's what they want to do, let them go ahead and do that. But be legit about it. Don't sit there and pick and choose where you're going to do it. Like, oh, all the seats on the camera side, we've got to sit there and cover those up, but we're going to leave everything on the ends and on the other side, we're not going to fill those up. No, man. If you're going to do it, you sit there, you slap those black covers all over every single seat that's in the lower bowl from right to left and wrap it around. Don't sit there and just try to pick and choose what you want, because that looks so Bush League. It looks so half-assed, and it just screams of more Tom Gore's buffoonery.
It's the best of the worst case scenario because you can't, I know we want them to fill the entire lower bowl, but what were you going to do? People were talking about it game in, game out, and I think what made it worse was when they were on national television, because once that happens, you see all those bright red seats, especially when it's Clippers versus Pistons, and people are looking nationally going, whoa, it's a big, bad eyesore. And when it goes out nationally, that's when you saw the move made. And I think it's the best of the worst case scenario. I know we would like him to extend it out and do it and fix the entire problem, but in terms of what they were able to do,
they're going to fix the entire problem? Like at the end of the season, when the Red Wings season finally comes to a merciful halt, and when the Pistons season finally comes to a merciful halt, do you think that Chris Ilitch and Tom Gores are going to get together, have a sit down, and they're gonna break some bread and come to an agreement? Like, look, we've got to change out those red seats.
Yeah, I think when they realize, oh boy, you know what? When we decided on the color, we probably didn't think. The first thing is obviously when we can think about what they were discussing, they didn't think that there would be that many empty seats.
I agree.
They probably assumed, okay, year one, we're getting tickets sold, and then we'll try, after a year to put a competitive product on the ice and on the court. But once the products were, and I really do believe that the Pistons have alienated their Oakland County fan base, as well as some fans who don't like Stan Van's political leanings, and they don't like the product on the field. and they don't like the product on the court. So with that combination, you see a lot of empty seats, and the prices are too high. You're seeing situations where it's just a bad mix. And the Red Wings, it's just really tough in terms of no hope and no buzz.
I will contend until the day I die. You put a winning product out there, your seats will be filled. Yeah. No matter what your political leanings are, no matter whatever, whoever you alienate. You put a winning product out there, people will show up. The problem is, neither one of these teams, whether it be the Red Wings or the Pistons, and I know we're talking Pistons right now, neither one of these products are very good right now. And for the Pistons to go out there and trade everything underneath the sun for a guy like Blake Griffin, and then to turn around and to drop games back to back to back, and in a fashion where it just makes you scratch your head. Like, are you guys even trying to play defense? I mean, you give up 118, you give up 118, you give up 108. You know, you've got wins where you're giving up 106 points, 107 points, 102 points, 114 points. You're giving up all those points. Are you trying to play defense?
Right.
Is anybody, I don't know, coming back and hustling to get back on D? Or are you just watching guys blow by you?
The loss to the Pelicans, I could understand. The loss to the Hawks was embarrassing. The Pelicans, I mean, when the Pistons play back-to-back, it's kind of a scheduling loss. I think it's tough.
You do realize them ripping off all those wins when they first got Blake, those were all back-to-backs for other teams.
Luck of the schedule.
So those were wins due to scheduling, and now you're gonna sit there and you're gonna claim losses for. So if you're gonna be pumped up about sitting there going off on a 5-game win streak, you better sit there and call it for what it was, because those wins were due to scheduling. Those teams were on back-to-backs and they were playing in your facility then.
How do you fix bad defense? Because I don't think they got the talent to do it.
It's effort. All defense is effort. This team looks so disinterested right now. They're not even listening to what Stan is saying, which is a bigger issue. You've got a guy. Look, I don't know how Stan Van Gundy comes back next year. Like, even if he makes the playoffs, I'm not sure how you bring him back in good faith. I have no clue how you do that. And if you say, well, we don't want to bring another general manager in here and give him this pile of crap, because Stan, you empowered him to make trades with commodities that are now going to affect the future of this team for not just this year, but years to come. So if you don't want to give another general manager that problem, I kind of understand that. But at the same time, you can't allow Stan to keep doing what he's doing. Whether you need to remove him as head coach or you need to remove his powers as the president of basketball operations, at some point, Tom Gores has to wake up from his drunken coma where he's sitting there on the sidelines. Hey, we are moving the Pistons right along, or whatever he's doing, where he's doing the Macarena with Blake Griffin. Tom Gores has to take some accountability for this organization. And at some point, he's got to put his foot down and tell Stan, you can no longer continue to operate in this fashion. Because at this point, Stan is out there basically with a flamethrower, and he's like, I don't like that, so I'm going to set that on fire. And I don't like that, I'm going to trade it away, and then I'm going to set it on fire. And I don't like that, so I'm going to set that on fire too. And he's just sitting there roasting marshmallows, and he's got chocolate sauce dripping down his fat little cheek. And you can't have it anymore, bro. You can't. Because you traded away a first-round pick this year in what is supposed to be a deep draft. And when they say a deep draft, I mean your top 15 picks all look like they're going to be studs. And you traded away what is probably the 12th pick. And if you go back and you look at what you could have had, and you tell me how this sounds to you. Could you imagine if Stan Van Gundy could, I don't know, put two thoughts together in a draft? You could have Devin Booker from 2015. You could have Donovan Mitchell in 2017. And now in 2018, it looks like you could have the 12th pick, right? You could have Miles Bridges. Now you slap those three dudes around Andre Drummond, and I don't care. It could be you in a thong wearing a jockstrap around your head. You can't even see the court. And you know what? That team could win you at least 45 to 50 games. And don't tell me it couldn't, because it could.
Yeah.
It could. And then if you wanted to, you could have traded Toby Harris, and you could have traded Avery Bradley for, I don't know, late round first picks. So now you've got 3 first round picks. So now your 12th pick, you could have sat there and balled it up with one of those other picks and shot up the draft board and got something better than Miles Bridges. And I really like Miles Bridges.
Did you see my weekend tweet that I put out there?
Jesus Christ, Stan. What did you do?
I said, good morning, everybody. Here's a reminder. The Pistons drafted Greg Monroe over Paul George.
Right. Right.
Good morning.
Right.
I was like,
oh my God. And if you really want to get crazy about it, and was it 2014, you could have had the Greek Freak if you had any foresight and knew what the hell you were doing. If you had any freaking damn scouts, Pistons, scouting is key. Scouting is key.
It is key. It is
oh
key,
my God, this team would be incredible.
Yeah. And so I'm starting to feel
you
like
suck at your jobs.
I'm starting to feel like the Blake effect is worn off. You got your rub for 5 games, and now you're hearing all the stories off the court regarding, and people knew about it too, in that he had an ex situation where he had a kid with another woman, and he kind of just left her high and dry, and now he's getting sued for it. Similar to Miguel Cabrera, it's like our superstars in town are paying out their ass, and they're paying a bunch of money to women. They're not involved in relationships anymore.
Jesus.
Way to go, Blake. And a lot of people
boners.
A lot of people outside of Detroit kind of commented on it and said, dude kind of left her high and dry. It was kind of a bogus kind of move in that you kind of gave her a lifestyle she got accustomed to, and then you yank it away. It's like, what's up with these guys in Detroit? They just want to give women money, and then at the drop of a head, you give somebody $20,000 a month, and that's what Miggy was giving his mistress. You give someone that much money a month, and then you listen to your ex and just cut it away. You're gonna piss somebody off, and then she's not gonna be like, okay, no problem. She's gonna go get a lawyer, and she's gonna then say, oh, you want to cut out that 20? I'm gonna now ask for 100.
Yep.
$100K a month. And
like,
now,
don't be a boner, guys.
I think sometimes maybe in the world of PR, you just pay it, and you're making $30 million a year. You cut her off. I think it's just worth it to pay it to avoid the negative PR. Blake, come on, man. I think that's PR 101. I mean, this is bad. You're now going to have to address this and basically negotiate a price to get this lady off your back.
Maybe he won't have to address it because do you remember Avery Bradley had a situation and we never heard anything after that. That was hot for one day.
Well, no, they moved him on.
One day.
They moved on from him, and I think.
Well, but if you remember when that came out before New Year's.
Yeah.
That came out before New Year's, and it was hot for the one day we did a show on DFN, and then next thing you know, you didn't hear anything about it. So good job, Detroit media members. Way to follow up on that one. I'm going to give you all gold stars.
There's nothing to follow up on. I think
freaking boners.
They came out and said, we don't believe he's going to want to sign with us. His agent's like, that's not true. Well, because I do believe they had something to do with his background and what happened. And they're like, and plus, to be honest, Avery Bradley wasn't that good this year. For some reason, his performance on the court didn't mesh well, and it's good. They got Blake Griffin, but I guess... But in the end, here's the problem with Blake Griffin. And when you start looking at it, those that were critical were right. Dude, you can do some things to him to make him shoot outside. It's like, now he just wants to shoot threes and, try to put his shoulder down and draw the foul. But when he doesn't get the calls, it's just basically you got 5 more points than Tobias Harris, and then the rest of the team's got to step up. Who else is going to step up? You have no defense. Who else is going to – you have to put a team around Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. I don't think when Reggie Jackson comes back, it's going to be the big spark. And
dude.
No, I think
I can't handle anybody talking about how Reggie's going to save this team. There is no way in hell Reggie comes back and saves this team.
Yeah,
it just isn't happening.
I think when we look at the playoff push, at most, the ceiling is a 7 seed and an early first-round exit. Couple wins,
again, so what was the point of trading for Blake then?
That's right.
What was the point of giving all of that up for Blake?
Right.
Why would you do that when you could have sat there, you could have turned around, and you could have traded Tobias Harris, you could have traded Avery Bradley and got your own first round pick. Yeah. And I'm telling you could have paired that with your first round pick and you could have moved up someplace. It doesn't make sense to me, man.
A lot of things don't make sense with this Piston organization. That's why people are turned off, and a lot of people do not like Stan Van at all.
Young talented players who have the potential to be superstars. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that.
And then the move, I think the move that sent people over the edge was you really went out there and traded for Jameer Nelson. Get the hell out of here.
And then you turn around and you give him almost 40 minutes?
Get the hell out of here, bro.
Come on.
Yeah, late in the
Jameer Nelson back in what? I don't know. 2009 was cool. Jameer Nelson in 2017, not as cool, bro.
Jameer Nelson and Justin Rose, my God. I like the dude, and you know that. He's a friend of the podcast.
He's awesome, man. He's a good guy.
He said that Jameer Nelson, if you go
His
check him out.
His girlfriend's kind of hot.
Check out
Just saying.
At JRoseWXYZ. He said that Jameer Nelson looks like the old dude at the rec center that still thinks he can ball. Look, I'm like, bro.
Jay Rose has no chill, man.
He dropped the mic.
He tells you how it is. That's what I like about the guy.
That was unreal. But that's true. That's like Jameer Nelson. You're going to a has-been? Come on, we can do without Jameer Nelson here on the Pistons. Come on now. It's like that's the go-to move you made at the deadline. Come on, man. That was ridiculous.
It's just, dude, it's a bad look right now. It's a bad mix. And
what do you think the ceiling is? Any hope?
No.
No playoffs,
I
right?
don't. I honestly, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I really don't. I don't see how they can do it. And if they do get in, it's like you said, it's going to be a 7 or an 8 seed. Yeah. And you're going to get your stuff pushed in, and you're going to be put out. Yeah. So what was the point of trading for Blake? Because Stan was trying to save his job. And the only way he was going to save his job was to make some noise in the playoffs. And by making noise in the playoffs, I don't mean getting a hard-fought victory over Cleveland and pushing them to 5 games, because that doesn't do anything for anybody. You needed to get into the second round, and you needed to sit there and make it a tough exit for somebody else in the second round, and possibly push your way into the third. And that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. So you traded away future assets for a fleeting idea. That's why I said I don't understand, if there is a general manager out there, who's going to want to come in and take over this pile of crap?
Right.
Like, it is a hot heaping pile of dog crap, fresh from the behind.
It's done. I think it's a lot of bad news ahead, and we got to see what happens. I mean, Reggie could potentially make it back so that they can maybe finish around 500, but man, it's just really sad.
This team needs an enema.
Yeah.
This organization needs an enema.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to get it.
I don't either, and I don't know how you could trade away. So, like, let's put on our role playing hats here, okay? I've got whips, you've got chains, handcuffs. All right, now let's get nasty. All right, it's Valentine's Day when we're recording this, so let's get nasty here. Okay, so you're the general manager. You're coming in and you're taking over for Stan Van Gundy. You've already blown him out as your head coach. So now you're going to go out there and you're going to have to try to find somebody to be a head coach of this team. But before you could do that, you've got to try to rectify what you got going on with this team and what he's going to have to coach.
Easy.
So
first move, trade Stanley Johnson. Get a draft pick. Trade Stanley for. I'm going to start stockpiling first round draft pick. I'm going to start hiring some scouts that know how to draft.
Okay.
Maybe I'm going to hire a scout from OKC. I'm going to hire a scout from Golden State. I'm going to trade Kennard. I'm going to trade Stanley Johnson for first and second round picks. And I'm going to stockpile them, and I'm going to tank. I'm going to say our first mission, guys. I'm going to roll in a big, huge tank and say,
do you
we're not
try
gonna
to move Blake?
No,
if you can, do you try to move Blake?
You try, but it's not going to work.
I don't think so either.
I say
what
this.
about Andre?
I'm going to
try to move him.
I'm going to have a tank on the big screen TV that I have in my office and say, we're not going to use that word, but let's look at that metaphor up there. And it's going to say it's going to be two big tanks.
No, dude. What you need is you
break it down.
Your entire team needs to come adorned with the old no limit tank.
Yeah, exactly. Camouflage.
Make them say,
all the symbolic gestures. Like, what, are they tanking? Like, no, I don't understand. Where's that coming from?
No limit tank, bro.
Exactly. And then we're just going to sell the pieces. And then, we're going to try to get whatever we can. And then we're going to go. And in 2018, 2019, we're going to win 12 games. And we're going to try to get the top 2 picks in the next 2 or 3 drafts. And then, when Blake Griffin's 30-31, we'll put him with some talent. And then we'll go from there. I'm tanking.
So you're basically
I'm ripping it apart.
You're looking at possibly winning 4, maybe 5 years down the line.
Exactly. It's time to tank, and that's the way.
That's why I hated this trade for Blake, man.
You tank. That's a strategy, and people hate it, but that's what you got to do to win championships. Sure, Blake can get you into the playoffs, but it doesn't look like you imagine.
You're
LeBron versus Blake.
Right? Yeah. You're not going to do anything against the tops in the East here.
Great. Yeah, it's going to be ISO Blake Griffin missing shots left and right. Yeah, and then LeBron will ISO and start draining shots.
Right, all day long.
Exactly. All right, let's take our final timeout. We got to play a round of the doctors in session. I got to fix everything that you're thinking about. I know you got a lot on your mind.
Get in my head, bro.
Let's do this. One final timeout. We'll come back. You're listening to episode 236 of the Doc and Jock Sports Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. Free and easy way to help keep the microphones hot, the lights on here in our Sterling Heights studio is to visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can take care of all your online shopping needs, buy Detroit sports tickets. You can see what show airs when, and you can definitely support those who support us via the supporter and sponsor tabs. You can learn everything you need to know about Detroit's premier sports podcast network by visiting our website. We greatly appreciate it. Going strong since 2013, and we're not going anywhere, only growing each and every day, and that's largely due to your support. We greatly appreciate it. You can find this podcast anywhere you can find podcasts and where podcasts are hosted. iTunes, Podomatic, Podbay, Stitcher, FeedBurner, our website, anywhere at all. There's no excuse why. There's no reason why you shouldn't be listening to Detroit's best podcast network. Thank you so much. Go visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Yes, sir. I can't wait to see what's on your mind. I love when it's the week where it's doctors in session. But this week I was like, oh man, how's my voice going to hold up? What is going to be on the docket? But I'm fascinated. I'm here to deliver each and every week in what we call the Doctor is in Session.
But to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
Yes, sir. You are the man. And I've got a question for the man. With pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training starting on Valentine's Day, which player or position group do you believe has to take a huge step forward this year for the Detroit Tigers?
Well, realistically, when I talk to Vito every week, I'm trying, poking, prodding on the Tigers Talk podcast that comes out every Wednesday. I'm like, dude, can you find anything positive to say? Nope. He's just like, we're going to lose. We're going to lose bad. The over-under was set at 63 wins. Everything's bad. People are talking about spring training with no buzz. Nobody thinks it's going to be.
So they're not losing 120 games.
They're not losing 120. I think
Okay.
they're going to go 62 and 100. I put a joke out on our Twitter page. They're going to win 69 games this year. 69 wins, baby. But there's no buzz. Nobody's excited. Opening day, you might be able to get a ticket for $10 to go to opening day. It might be a fun time. The ticket sales are really soft, and it's to be expected. This team is going to get destroyed a lot. They're going to lose. Ron Gardenhire could keep games close. They could be competitive, but early on, the expectation is out of each 3 games, they're going to lose 2 of them. That's just the way it is. That's the realistic goal. But if a unit is going to step up to help this team maybe get to 70 wins, it's got to be the starters. It's got to be the starting rotation. They got to take a big step forward to help keep this from becoming a 50-win team. And meaning Jordan Zimmerman's got to find his fastball. He's got to do whatever he can do to reclaim what he had at Washington. What he's done here is steal money from the Tigers. And it's unfortunate. He's been injury-plagued. His fastball's down.
Dude, did you hear he just got injections in his back?
Right. He's on pace to win the Anibal Sanchez Award for giving up the most home runs in a season. And it's unfortunate, dude. It's like, wow, they keep putting him out there, and he's now, what we saw in 2017 was he was a 4-inning pitcher.
Yep.
And then he'd start giving up home runs left and right. Anibal Sanchez is like, dude, slow down. Don't give up so many home runs. It's like, come on, man.
You're outpacing me. What are you doing?
Exactly. So if they can be led by Michael Fulmer, Norris, Boyd, Fires, then you have a chance maybe to be competitive in games. But, I was talking to Vito about it, and it's like, well, if you just look at the averages, if they each win like 12 games, that's 60 wins. So you start adding 3-4 wins each, it can happen where you can get to 70, 75 wins. But in the end, we all know the Tigers are likely to slot anywhere between 63 and 73 wins this year. I don't think that realistically, any group is going to take the next big step. But, the veterans can do some things. But if the team is going to take a step to, closer to mediocrity, it's got to be the starters got to step up, and they got to perform. They got to go deeper into innings. They got to go deeper into games, and they got to keep the team in it, because it's looking like when you look across the board, 1 through 9, talent-wise, when you just match it up against other teams in the American League, and especially in the AL Central, it's going to be tough.
How many more shortstops does Al Avila trade for this year?
All right.
Do we have any more room for shortstops? All we have on this team is shortstops.
2 more.
2 more shortstops.
As this recording, 2 more were signed, right?
Oh, man. Unbelievable. All right. So earlier this week, it was released that Michigan State was ranked number 2 in the AP Top 25, which is coming off the heels where they were ranked number 4, and the 3 teams ahead of them all lost. All of them lost. To unranked opponents, no less. So should Michigan State fans be upset at their current number 2 ranking? And do you think they should have any beef with where Joe Lunardi and the rest of the cronies who kind of put the NCAA playoff picture together, the bracketologists, have them ranked as low as a number 3 seed?
It was done for ratings. It was done to spur discussion. I felt like, how do you have Michigan State be overall number 11 when they're ranked number 1 in the country right now in the coaches poll? Come on now. They just had a win versus Purdue. You see they got Miles Bridges and Jackson doing some things. Cassius Winston's coming along. It was done improperly. You saw all the number 1 seeds who have come off losses. You recognize, okay, you know what? It's done to spur discussion. That's what it's for. I'll peek into it, but I said earlier this week, I'm not going to give any emotion to it. Great. That's where they're slotted. It doesn't matter in the end, because when the seeding comes out in March, if the Michigan State Spartans have a solid Big Ten tournament, they'll be their number 1, number 2 seed. All I care about is the location in which they play. So I'm hoping they end up in the regional that takes place at Little Caesars Arena, and that's all that matters to me. I'm hoping if everything plays out greatly and they really help us out, it'll be Michigan, Oakland, and Michigan State all in the same regional at Little Caesars Arena.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome, but Oakland kind of had a setback with Martez Walker going out. They're injury-plagued. Their trek to the NCAA tournament took a massive hit, so it's probably going to be just one of them. And heck, I'll settle for Michigan again. It's no big deal, but if it can be Michigan State being a number 1 or 2 seed at LCA, I'll take that. But yeah, this was ridiculous. Nobody respected it. People know what it is. It's just a spur discussion. It's a content-driven thing, and it was the first one that came out was quite ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't understand
Thumbs down.
how they do that and what they're thinking, but
yeah,
you're
ridiculous.
right. If it's to get people talking about it, look, you got two schlubs like us jibber-jabbering about it. So
You got it.
Are you taking any of the Olympics in?
At first, when I knew it was time, February, I said to myself, I'm not really interested. But obviously it's on. It's better than watching the Pistons and Red Wings and Red Wings giving up goals. So I'm like, man, can the Red Wings blow another 3-goal lead? Sure, let's do that.
Yeah, they can.
I think they can give up 6 power play goals in 5 minutes. Let's go for the record. Shoot, if you're going to play like that, just go for it all. So I tune in and I'm like, whoa, I've never been a snowboarding fan, but Chloe Kim got me. She hooked me. I'm like, dude, they're doing 1080.
Because she's a hot Asian, that's why.
They're doing they're doing 1080 spins, and she's tweeting from the events, and she's got the swagger, and you're like, dude, she was doing this at 13, and she's hot Asian, and then you look at it and you go, wow, I could peek into this. And then I said, okay, obviously there's a couple events I always tune to just to keep track of what's going on in figure skating. I want to see. I'm actually curious how the Americans in hockey are going to do. They blew a game to Slovenia. It's like, okay, good. Oh, look at that. They blew a 1-goal lead and gave up a goal late, and then gave up a goal in overtime. Yay! Good start there.
Just like the Red Wings.
Exactly. But I'm into snowboarding. I like the events. I mean, that's basically what's been relegated to. The cool events are the snowboarding events and things like that. But you got a lot of people I've never heard of. But you're learning about these people. Whatever. I'm not interested outside of the Olympics in their careers, but Chloe Kim, snowboarding and hockey, those are the two events I'm peeking into. And dude, Chloe Kim balled out. I mean, she was getting great ratings, and she was doing she had already won the gold and was doing 1080s and landing it. I was like, damn, snowboarding is the shit on television. It's good to watch.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. No curling or no luge.
No, none of that stuff.
Dude, luge is great, bro. It's like, hey, let's strap yourself to a board that's got an ice skate attached to it, and let's go speeding at about 100 miles an hour down a ramp.
The 2-man luge has gotten people all up on our Twitter page. Like, oh, look at the 2-man luge.
It's so weird. I was watching that this morning. It is so weird. The dude in the front's got to basically lay down in the crotch of the dude in the back.
Yeah.
It's so awkward.
That's what everyone looks at.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. You want a bonus question? I got a bonus
real
question
quick.
for
Yes,
you.
let's get it.
All right, real quick. What do you make of this? We're going to bring this all full circle here because we're going right back to the Tigers. What do you make of this situation with Miguel Cabrera, his wife, and his mistress? And do you think
I'm realistic, bitch.
All right,
I love that drop.
Here's the realistic approach, man.
Makes me laugh every time.
I'm going to steal your line. Dude, you got to keep it in your pants. How are you going to have a mistress? It's like, people are just reading it like, oh, Miggy had a mistress. Bro, I mean, literally, he made every wrong move. First wrong move, keep it in your pants. You are married. Dude, why are you having 2 other kids that are not in the context of your marriage? What's going on there? That's a big problem. 2, you start paying this woman. And it seems like she was living good. Getting $5,000 here, $5,000 for Christmas. He paid for, based on the readings that I saw on TMZ, great publication that's been following this. Gave her a great trip and a cruise. Dude, he was lobbing her $5,000 checks like it was going out of style. So obviously, he's happy. He's like, dude, I'm making a lot of money. It's hush-hush. No one's really talking about it. People kind of know that, I'm Miguel Cabrera. I've had other kids, but no one's really talking about it. All of a sudden, his current wife is all butthurt about it and is obviously seeing, probably going through the checkbook, seeing $5,000 gone, $5,000 gone, and she's burning inside and she's all mad and she's going through the finances. She's going, Miguel, how could you be doing this? Stop the payments. You're just
I wish you spoke Spanish so you could just sit there and get all upset in Spanish right now.
No bueno, Mickey. This is bad.
No bueno.
No bueno. No mas. No mas, Mickey. Mucho dinero. El slato. Mucho dinero. No. And so she threatens divorce. All of a sudden, where his thought lies. He cuts off the payment. Literally the stupidest move he could have made. You're giving the girl $20,000 a month. $20,000 a month because, the quote unquote lifestyle that she got accustomed to.
This is the best segment ever.
Yeah, you gave her $20,000 a month. It was great. Keep doing it. You're making a lot of money. Keep paying it. Dude, every time she complains, just up $1,000. How many times is she? How many times?
You'll teach her, right?
Yeah. How many times is she gonna complain a year? 5 times. You get up to
Up at $1,000 and hold a bottle of scotch in front of her, like you don't want none of me.
Exactly. All you got to do is be like, look, I'm willing, through your representatives to go up to maybe $35K a month. Period. Because that's still less than 100, which is asking now. Now you piss her off, and you know that when you piss off a woman, she's not going to just be like, you know what, fine, I'm just going to go back, be a flower salesman and run my company and build it up. Dude, you were cutting her a check for $20,000 a month, and you were her pipeline. Figuratively and literally. You laid the pipe and you gave her 2 kids, and she hit the jackpot. You can't hit the lotto and take it back.
She's done now.
You can't hit the lotto and take it back. So whoever was advising Miggy is stupid because
We need to start our own law firm
right. Well, seriously, if you think about it,
where we deal with nothing but celebrity cases.
Miggy should have went to
these
his
dummies.
wife and said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but it's going to cost me probably upwards of $200K if I cut her off. Look, we can work this out. She's going to be happy with 20, 25. No one's in her ear. Please stop telling me not to pay this.
Let's
sorry.
work this out. Let's have her over for dinner, and then we'll have a 3-way. It'll be cool. Let's work this out.
Exactly. Let's make it so that I'm not paying $100. Now he's in court. Now he's got to be in Florida instead of with the crew, and he's got to sit there and and legally in the law, she's supposed to get 7% of his salary, so she could get upwards of $2 million a year.
Holy
she could get
cow.
$200K. So they're trying to get a number in the middle, but bro, it's stupid finance.
Yeah,
it's pretty stupid.
It was dumb. Do you think this affects him? Let's bring this back to sports. It affects you.
How are you that stupid?
This affects you.
It affects me. How are you that stupid?
All you want to do is bounce your head off a wall. Like,
dude, you pay 20, you could pay 30. It's less than 150. It's less than 200K. Of course it's going to affect him. Every end of the, you know what? Here's what's going to happen. Every 31st of the month, Mickey's going to go in a slump.
you got to see all those dollar bills going
Every
out.
31st, look for an offer from Miguel Cabrera.
Oh, hey, Gardy. So here, this is what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
Every time the 30th or the 31st rolls around, you bench Miggy. Just bench him. Play anybody else. Play Warwick Supple. I don't even care if he knows how to swing a baseball bat. Doesn't matter. Play that guy. Because you know what? He's got a better chance of running into one than Miggy does on these days.
Oh, man. I can't believe this is how this stuff goes down. Who advised these people?
They're idiots. They're all boners. Look, if you are a celebrity and you run into a little bit of a tiff where you were banging some other broad on the outskirts of your marriage, call 1-800-DocNJock. That's DocNJock. And we're going to give you some advice, and we're going to help you out here, and we're going to help save your marriage, and more importantly, we're going to help save those finances.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Wise decisions on when you have a mistress. We got to have the Mistress Chronicles or the Mistress...
the Mistress Chronicles. It's like the Chronicles of Narnia.
Or the Mistress Files. Or the Mistress Handbook has to be given out. And you don't run it that way. You don't give a woman $20K a month and then cut it back.
No,
Ever.
you
Never.
Can't. You got to start small, bro.
Yeah.
You start real low. Like, here, I'll give you 1,000. No. Oh, you need more? Okay, I'll give you 2,000. Yeah. Oh, you need a little bit more? Look, babe, I'm capping this at 5 G's a month.
Exactly.
That's what you're getting capped at. After that, we're going to have some more extensive conversation.
No, she started around 10. She got up to 20 because she had 2 kids.
Oh,
so
man.
And he was giving her a cake. It was good. So, so this is all on Miggy. It's exactly his fault. Terrible, terrible. He violated all the tenets of the handbook.
By the way, I love you speaking Spanglish. That was awesome.
No bueno, Miggy. Absolutely terrible. His wife's like, me gusto dinero. You're giving away to some floozy in Florida. You know what?
El Slutto.
I would hate to be Miggy, man, because, you got 2 Latin women bitching at you.
Oh, good luck.
Oh, God.
Good luck. I got one of those, and sometimes I want to put her in a shoebox.
Forget it.
Holy cow.
You imagine being a fly on the wall at his house? Oh, my God.
No wonder that guy kills bottles of scotch like they're going out of style.
You're talking all fast and stuff, and like, oh, my God, he just must be like, please, what did I do? What did I do? Man, all right, let's get out of here before we put her in trouble.
All right. Great.
No bueno for Miggy. God damn, Miggy.
Oh, man.
Could you imagine when that number comes out and it's like, all of a sudden we'll know. Actually, we'll know how much money he paid by his number. Dude, if he comes out with like 35 home runs, he's super excited. He got like 50 grand.
Yeah,
like 50.
You're right. You got something where he was like, oh, this is totally obtainable.
50, great. If he wins, he'll come out with that swagger. If all of a sudden you don't hear from Miggy and he's all depressed, he's in the 200s.
That's right.
Oh.
If he goes on a bender where he's all liquored up on scotch, you know what happened.
All right, let's get out of here. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski. whiskey. I've had a good time recording this Doc and Jock episode. Let's get out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Every Thursday, you know you're going to hear Doc and Jock. Book it. You know it.
Or Barry Manilow.
Or Barry Manilow.
Or Barry White.
Yeah.
Barry White, not Barry Manilow.
Barry White and Barry Manilow.
I'm Barry Manilow. That's Barry White.
Mandy, don't, right? Let's get out of here.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Baby.
This extension is...
What's the password?
No English.
Password.
Password?
Is that you or me, you think?
That wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You should leave that in.
This extension is.
That was awesome. What the fuck was that?
I might have been a Yahoo commercial. Let me cut that out.
Put that at the end.
Okay, yeah.
Put it at
I
the
will,
end.
I will.
That is awesome.
This is how we fuck up here, man. Whatever.
All right, let me compose myself.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out. And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do you. They talk to me.